Hey, boys and girls, we want to show you just some editing within Audacity. Ultimately, the reason why you would do editing, you're looking to pull out maybe some mistakes, maybe some oopsies that you had here in the recording, but more importantly, you can pull out fillers, situations where you repeat, situations where there are a lot of blank spaces within your recording. So you could take a 6-minute recording, and just by cutting out pieces that don't need to be there, you might be able to shave 30 seconds of content from that recording. So we're in Audacity. Audacity is a free recorder, so it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it gives you the amount of control to take out some of the pieces that you're looking for here. Some tools in Audacity that you have to look for. There is a magnifying glass, 2 magnifying glasses that allows you to zoom in. It allows you to zoom out. So that's really important. And then there are a couple of commands that we're gonna look for, and they're both under the edit section. So we're looking to delete or cut. Either one is gonna remove a piece from the recording. Keyboard shortcuts are going to become really helpful. So I would always tell you Control X is the best way to do that. Just Control X. That way you don't have to play in the edit menu. And then if you ever make a mistake, because when you start editing your audio, you're going to see, oops, I didn't take enough, or oops, I took too much. Control Z is the undo. So if you ever make a cut and it's too much, Control Z will put it back. Again, you can grab that also by this arrow pointing backwards. It'll undo it as well. So take a listen to this recording right here.
Some of our questions. Good to be here.
Good to be here.
Whoa.
And there was this gap in the audio, and you can see the gap. When a line is very flat like this, there is a pause. You see a little bit of noise there. That could be noise from the room. It could be somebody taking a breath. But overall, there's not much going on here. To make a cut, I'm going to click on my mouse, and I'm going to draw a box in the timeline. Now, when I'm making that cut, I'm not taking it completely out. I'm not removing it all the way to where the audio ended and the audio began again. We want there to be a gap. We just don't need there to be a second gap within it. So I drew that box. I'm going to hit Control X. You can see that gap got shorter. Now let's listen to it again. After Mr. McCollum talks, you're not going to hear as much of a pause.
Questions.
Good to be here.
What would you say is your biggest failure?
I don't know if this could classify as a failure, but my very first job after college, my major was international agriculture, so I took a job in Puerto Rico, and I was assistant manager of a mango plantation, and I worked there about a week, and my eyes got all swole shut, and I was allergic to everything. Well, it turns out I was allergic to mangoes, which was the plantation I worked on. So that's, I guess you could.
So within every one of these, and let's target this right here, for example, I heard a repeat. And first of all, every time you see these straight lines, those are gaps in your audio. So you might go in there, you might trim a little bit out. You're not going to get a lot of space out of these because Mr. McCollum's actually doing really well in here. There aren't a lot of gaps in audio.
Worked on. So that's, I get.
So I heard, so that. There was a little bit of a repeat in here, and that's happening right here. Now that's really fine tuning. So I'm going to come in a little bit deeper. I'm hitting this zoom button, and again, it's right in here somewhere that we're playing. I'm going to play that one more time.
I worked on. So that's.
I see that first that being about right here. So I'm taking out the word that, and I'm coming in here, and I'm taking out this blank space where he caught himself and repeated it. So I'm hitting Control X. Now let's see what we have here.
Which was the plantation I worked on. So that's, I guess you could consider that a failure.
So I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I still heard it a little bit. So I'm gonna come in here and go a little bit deeper. And I'm gonna cut it again.
I worked on. So that's, I guess you could consider that a failure. And
okay.
So I only worked there about a week or so, and I took the money I earned and went to St. Thomas for a couple days and then had to come back home. Okay,
so right there, I heard a pause and an right? And we use fillers all the time. In regular everyday language, we use fillers, but for the sake of a podcast, they don't help you tell your story.
Home, but
Okay, he had a pause right here, and that's all It's interesting when you're looking at the audio what some of these words actually look like. See, I just did a filler. You like that? So I cut that out. I drew a box around the in the blank space. Now let's listen to it again.
days, and then had to come back home, but being able to persevere through that.
So,
Huge gap. This so. All right. All gone now. I again drew a box around it. Control X.
But being able to persevere through that.
you just learned that you're allergic to mangoes?
Yeah, it's, I guess,
Now, one thing that I will make a quick note of, and I know we're talking about editing right here, but one thing that I noticed in here, and this would be for everybody who's recording the audio, controlling the mixer here. Mr. McCollum's voice is booming. He has a really solid radio voice. He always has. It's been something about it. But notice then when your host comes in, you see definitely a difference in the audio levels here. So that tip that I would tell you is when this podcast was being recorded, that host probably needed a little bit higher of a fader, because your goal when you pull this in here, you really shouldn't be able to tell a difference in the audio levels between the host and the speaker. That all comes down to mixing and pulling the faders with that. Okay, hope that helps. Thanks for watching.